Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exiles my first Human Rights vlog style, and I am wearing a sweater because it isn't the warmest in here right now, and to be honest with the sweater and the way my hair looks, I kind of look like a member of the band in question, but it's time for another episode of What's Wrong With.
What's wrong with me? You wanna know what's wrong with me? I can ask you the exact same thing. What's wrong with me?
I'm taking a class here for winter term about the history and the evolution of pop music, and I have to write a lot of chapter summaries for this class from the book that we have. During the writing process of the chapter focusing on the 60s, the legendary rock band The Beatles were brought up a fair amount, and it gave me the idea to make a What's Wrong With about them. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, Shades, it's the Beatles. Why would you make a What's Wrong With about them? Well, even when you're the biggest selling rock band of all time, and got lots of people referring to you as the greatest band of all time, there's still going to be people out there that are going to give you a hard time. And the Beatles are no exception to that, and that's why I'm making this video. We'll start here with the way I usually start these videos off, and talking about what I personally like about the Beatles, as well as some backstory, I suppose. The Beatles were a band I grew up with. They were one of the very first bands I've ever listened to, dating back to when I was about 5 years old. And my mom would play an album of theirs called One, which is a partial greatest hits album of theirs. And the reason I say partial is because while a lot of their best-known singles are on the disc, there's still so much missing. No In My Life, no Helter Skelter, no I Am the Walrus, and so much else. If anything, that's just because they have too many hits, and the songs included on it are among the higher charting of their career. But still, there's a lot I wish was on this album, because the Beatles are just timeless, and their songs are so classic. And a lot of the songs on here do bring me back to a pretty naive part of my life listening to them. And 15 years down the road, they've stuck with me. I'm very nostalgic when it comes to the Beatles. My favorite album of theirs has always been Day Tripper, mainly because of that really catchy guitar riff. It's really upbeat and one of the more harder Beatles songs. The Beatles were never a hard rock band, but they had songs like Day Tripper that were hard for them. And if you ask me what my favorite album, aside from the One album, is, which is technically actually the first album I've ever owned, it would have to be a toss between the White Album and Rubber Soul. They both have their fair share of good songs. Rubber Soul has Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, Nowhere Man, Think For Yourself, and In My Life. And the White Album has Back in the USSR, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Blackbird, and Helter Skelter. Rubber Soul might come out on top, considering the White Album does have some pretty shitty songs on it, like Revolution 9. The fuck is that shit? I also really like the albums Abbey Road, Let It Be, Revolver, Help, and a lot more. I cherish the Beatles' music because it played such a significant role in shaping my musical taste at a comparatively younger age than when other people I know were listening to them. The Beatles' movies are also pretty good to me. All 4 of them are sitting right up there in my collection, and no, I don't count the Rooftop Concert as a movie. My favorite? Probably Yellow Submarine, mainly for nostalgia reasons. Let's also talk about the Beatles as musicians. I think George Harrison is a pretty good lead guitar player, Paul McCartney a pretty good bassist, John Lennon, I like his vocal ability more so than his guitar playing. Ringo, well, his playing fit the band's sound, and it wasn't upstaging at all. By no means do I think Ringo is an incredible drummer, but I'll be damned if I said he was shitty. All 4 of them have very distinctive sounds on their instruments as well as their vocal styles. You can tell who is singing the song. I'm also a fan of Lennon's, McCartney's, and Harrison's solo careers, at least most of the stuff they've put out. Ringo, I am not familiar with his solo work at all. It never gets much play, and I can think of a good reason as to why. I always liked Paul's solo stuff with Wings the best because my mom also played that a lot in the car. And he did come out with some very memorable hits. Lennon and Harrison both did as well, but Paul just sticks with me more. Before we get to debunking the flack, let's talk about the everlasting Beatles vs. Rolling Stones debate. I've never been a big Rolling Stones guy. I like a good bit of the Stones songs, but I really think the Stones are kind of overhyped. Which is fine. I'm sure Stones fans say the exact same thing about the Beatles. Point is, I take Beatles over Rolling Stones any day. I think they've had a much bigger overall impact on the music scene, and I think they've come out with a lot more memorable songs than the Stones, but that's just me. There's not too much flack for me to debunk, because so many people love the Beatles, they don't really supply me with a lot of flack. Nobody really attacks the Beatles musically, unless they just use Ringo as a justification to do so, which is just silly. Not everybody likes the Beatles, and that's fine. It's just like I said in the I'm not obligated to like or dislike anything video. Nobody has to like the Beatles. People do have their reasons for not liking them. But there is one thing I want to get out there in this video. Even if you really dislike the Beatles, you can't deny the impact they've had on pretty much the whole world. No band or artist has left as big of a mark on the world as the Beatles, though Elvis and Michael Jackson come close. So many bands and artists cite the Beatles as influential on them. Without the Beatles, we wouldn't be seeing a lot of artists from after their time. Doesn't matter the genre, doesn't matter if it's pop or heavy metal. So to completely disrespect the Beatles when they've made such a huge impact on the world, I just think is blasphemy. Am I saying you can't not like the Beatles' music? No. What I am saying is you don't need to like someone to be able to respect them. Like I said earlier with the Rolling Stones, I'm not very big on them, but do I respect them? Yes. And that's the way I think it needs to be with the Beatles, even if you're not a fan of them. That's all I gotta say there. Now here comes the point where I open the floor and ask you, the viewer, what's wrong with the Beatles? Please be rational when leaving your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, and have a great day. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.